Hey guys, Stealth here. Welcome to World of Warships. Today I'm sailing the Mogami. It's two brothers, domination mode, so we have 4 zones to secure. We already start out with B. D would be nice to have. A is usually destroyer territory, and we have quite the number of battleships in this match. Teams consisting of a decent amount of battleships. It's not a full battleship team, fortunately. 5 battleships per team, a bunch of cruisers, and 2 destroyers per side. Now our destroyer over here, the Mayhan, does something very interesting. Instead of going for the closest capture zone, which is D, he just goes immediately right across my bow, straight to A. And this means that with him gone, we are going to have to try and capture these zones, because he's not doing it. Unfortunately, we do have plenty of ships here. We have, I believe, 2 Bayerns. Let me check that. Yep, 2 Bayerns, a Warspite, a Miyoko, and a Kuchizov. Which means that we have pretty much half the team on this end, and the other half is going to be over to the other side, of course. There we have the Nuremberg, a New Mexico, a Cleveland, a Fubuki, the Mayhan, as well as a Bismarck. Albatross 1717 is indicating that the Mayhan should go to D, but this guy has completely ignored any advice and any, let's say, standard tactics, and is going right for Alpha, where he will soon meet his demise, I'm unfortunate to tell you. Now, Mogami, quite the good ship. Stock, not so much. In the stock configuration, it's not that good. Especially the turret reverse is really bad with those 155mm guns. The 203s are really nice. And of course you do get a decent torpedo complement. You get 4 launchers per side, but they cannot fire out very far ahead. They can about fire to this angle. So if you want to fire your torpedoes, you're going to have to be pretty much broadside onto a target or do a sort of drive-by, which will expose the side of your ship. And for a Mogami, that is really bloody vulnerable. You do not want to get hit. Now I'm more or less separating myself from the rest of the fleet. I want the enemy to target these guys. The battleships can take it. The Kuchizov can smoke for them if he requires so. And hopefully I can get a couple of side shots in. And basically we're waiting for the first targets to appear. Now keep an eye on this Kuchizov, Stefan 155, because he turns out to be a really good player in this match. First couple of ships spotted on both ends. We have a York and a Kuchizov ahead. And over to the right we have a Hatsuharo, Bismarck, New Mexico, Cleveland and Bayern. I'm very happy that the Bismarck is on that end. I find Bismarcks to be quite scary, especially if you're in a cruiser. And of course most Bismarcks are spec'd for a secondary build, meaning that they have that almost 10-kilometer range secondary firepower. Not good. Fortunately I don't have to worry about those guys. All I can worry about at the moment is the York. And the Atlanta. The Atlanta is quite obnoxiously actually pushing into D. I'm not exactly sure what he's hoping to achieve. I am hoping that he's going to change his course though, and run right into my torpedoes. But for now I'm perfectly happy farming a bit of damage onto this very thin-skinned cruiser. There's the course change. That's pretty much the course change I wanted him to make, although he's changing course a bit more than I was hoping for. So more rounds go in, bit of damage, but really nothing near what I was hoping for. Somebody else also spots the Atlanta and starts to fire at him. And the guy suddenly lost 10,000 hit points in the first 4 minutes of the game. We're forcing this guy to retreat from the Delta Zone. We do not want him in here. It's too dangerous. Not just for them, but also for us. I don't want them to have D. It is domination. We already lost a cruiser. The Nuremberg has been sunk, unfortunately. A couple more rounds are going in. These, unfortunately, don't do that much damage. Once again, only one clips the stern of the ship, doing 0 damage. And the Atlanta completely retreats, leaving me to fend with, for example, this Bayern, who's moving really slowly. And a Bayern is a pretty heavily armored target. So AP is really not good enough. HE might work. I'm here pretty much close behind the Warspite. I am going to be showing a bit of broadside here in order to get more guns to fire at the Bayern, because these guys were focused on the Warspite. As you can see, it's taking a lot of fire. It's burning on 2 separate locations. And with that, I'm trying to get this guy to disengage. I want the Bayern to start changing course, because he too is broadside on. Warspite's trying to disengage. I see him making the turn, but I wasn't quite fast enough. So instead, I run into him. Immediately apologize for the crash, because I am blocking his retreat and I don't really want to cost him any more hit points than he's already lost. So I apologize in chat and tell him I'm sorry for obstructing his turn. So the Benson is really close to my position. I know that that is the frontmost position where he was smoking from. So a couple of torpedoes on the way, and I tried to disengage once again, because I was exposing a lot of my broadside. Not a good thing, especially not for Mogami. It is really bloody vulnerable for the broadsides. A couple more rounds go in. No damage whatsoever on the Bayern. Nothing. So let's just wait for another salvo and try to keep pumping damage into this guy. Now, question. Where did the Atlanta go? Where is the Atlanta at? Because it's definitely not coming back. You can see that the last known position for this ship was over here. And it seemed to me that it was heading towards C, potentially turning right into B, so heading due north. And with most of our ships already engaged elsewhere, he has actually a pretty good chance at capturing B without being challenged whatsoever. So I'm saying in chat, guys, the Atlanta might come up middle. And we do have 2 cruisers here. We got the Kuchezov as well as the Miyoko. They are pushing into D, however. They're busy elsewhere. And not a moment too soon, because we have not killed a single ship, yet we have already lost 3 of our own. Nuremberg and 2 destroyers. So capturing zones is going to be a bit more difficult. A couple more rounds trying to get the Bayern once again on fire, and there he goes. He's at 3,800 hit points, so he is repairing. But he is still burning, and there goes the fire as well. So this guy is not going to be dying as far as it's up to him. But fortunately, it's not up to him, and the Warspite finishes him off. The Benson is once again spotted, trying to get a few more rounds in on him, but he's far behind the island. Interesting about this Benson is that it was not zigzagging that much. And that was a bit of a mistake for him, as he gets clipped. My lead was a bit off. It could have been a bit better and hurt him a lot more than just 1,000 hit points. And he is trying to disengage. He's down to 2,000 hit points, and of course, then when I fire my salvo, he slows down. So I miss the next salvo. Slow the ship down, slam her into a turn. And this is when I'm thinking that it's a Mogami and not a Chapayev, because Chapayev could never have made that turn. Whereas the Mogami is more or less agile enough to do it. And there we go. The Benson's been destroyed. That is the 2nd kill on the enemy team. And we are still 2 ships behind. New Mexico, still going strong, but also exposing his broadside. I decided to take this course change around this side of the island, and that's when I noticed that the B zone is being captured. So the Atlanta did come up middle. There are no other ships that are unaccounted for, it's just the Atlanta. And with good chances as well. I mean, I don't blame this guy at all for trying to capture that area, because all of our other ships were engaged elsewhere. And this map is, well, it's gotten a bit more difficult for the Atlanta. There used to be these really sheer island faces or cliff faces where you could more or less park your Atlanta behind and just lob your shells over. But the map has been flattened out quite a bit, meaning that it's a bit more difficult to do that in an Atlanta. So trying to behave like a big destroyer and capturing B is actually turning out to be the very, very good decision for this guy. We start losing ships left, right and center, and we are now down 3 ships. We do have control of the D zone. A zone is being capped by the enemy. B and C are already controlled by the enemy. And this means that the team is not really doing very well. There goes the A zone. They have 3 versus 1. And our Bismarck is taking a lot of fire as well. He's down to 38,000 hit points. Seems to be burning, considering that he is losing hit points. Yep, it seems to have 1 fire on the stern. Wargaming still hasn't fixed the replay system, which is so incredibly annoying. And the amount of fire that's coming in, I'd say that the Atlanta is presumably in B and just parked there, because otherwise I would have probably seen it. And it's not the only thing that the Bismarck is taking fire from. The whole of the remaining enemy fleet is bearing down on him. So we got a Cleveland coming in, and a Otago is coming in. The Bismarck from the enemy team is pushing forward. So many ships are coming for this guy, and that's when I spot the Atlanta. The Atlanta is at 4.6 kilometers. You saw me briefly switch to torpedoes to see what kind of maneuvers he was making, and he's not making any. So this guy just cruised up the lane in the middle and decided to stop. Perfect. Shots going in, 4,500 damage as I hit his bow full on. Torpedoes are out. And for some reason the Atlanta just does not move. I really don't get it, but he just doesn't move. Now I'm taking a bit of a risk here, keeping the ship broadside on, because I want to get as many guns to fire at the ship as possible. More shells go in, and unfortunately for him, he is not quite able to dodge the torpedo. So there's the second kill. Moving along swiftly, as my Bismarck has died and I'm the only one attracting shells right now. I'm thinking, well, if I can just stop firing, I can use my concealment of 10.5 clicks and just keep in the zone without being detected, capture it and get the hell out. Basically wait for this Bayern to come and help me. Unfortunately not quite possible. There is an Otago behind me, and I also sent out some torpedoes to start a meet and greet with this guy. Not just him, but also the Cleveland, and the Otago is at little under 10 clicks, 9.9, meaning that he is going to be still detecting me. I'm zigzagging as much as possible, trying to get a couple of rounds in, trying to put ships on fire as much as possible. The Otago at 14,000 hit points is the prime target. He doesn't have that much left, and if I can get him on fire and potentially hit him with a torpedo, he's likely to go down. Still zigzagging. He sees the torpedo, tries to avoid it, but loses 13,500 hit points, and that leaves him about 1,000. I caused flooding. I didn't put him on fire before, so he is capable of fixing, or actually he's not capable of fixing his flooding, and he just floods. The Cleveland also takes a torpedo. I'm encouraging the Bayern that's with me to engage the Cleveland, who is now a very easy kill on 5,500 hit points. A couple of rounds going in. There he's on fire. He cannot put out the fire because he just used his repair to kick out the flooding, and this guy is toast. Now notice those torpedoes. That's 3 torpedoes coming in. I know that the Otago fires spreads of 4. The Cleveland doesn't have torpedoes, and there's just 1 destroyer left. There's my 4th kill. That's the Cleveland out of commission. I tell the guys that I'm capping B, but hold on. There's the culprit. That's the guy who fired off the torpedoes. The Hatsuharu at 6 clicks out. Very, very low on hit points. Very easy kill. But always assume that before he dies, a torpedo sends out a spread of torpedoes. And that's exactly what this guy was doing. Unfortunately, my turn was completely wrong. I was hoping to steer around the torpedoes, but I take 1, lose 12,000 hit points, and I continue to move towards the B cap and try to get a couple more rounds in on Bismarck here. Pushing forward at full speed. And now, all of a sudden, we're doing actually quite alright. We're 4v4, so we completely pulled the game back. Bismarck is on fire, and presumably he'll have repaired that in little to no time. Then another ship has been sunk. Stefan 155 has managed to kill off 1 more ship, leaving just in New Mexico a Bismarck and a York. So continuing to push through B, continuing to cap. And I was more or less debating to go down the middle or to continue to A. A was the safer option. continuing now to see through the middle was the faster option. But it also means that I was not able to maneuver out of the way of any incoming threats. So instead I decided to go for A, so that if we lose more ships, I can cap A and deny them any kind of income. B, almost secure. And unfortunately, the island is completely blocking off any kind of line of sight, any kind of shell paths to the New Mexico and the Bismarck. In the meanwhile, we have a hero run coming in from Stefan 155 in the Kutuzov. Notice the positions of these ships. This one on the minimap is the Bismarck. This is the New Mexico. This is the Kutuzov. We have a broadside... What is that? Broadside Bayern, which means he's a pretty easy target. But our Stefan over here in the Kutuzov has other plans. He just fired off a spread of torpedoes going for the New Mexico. New Mexico is down at 23,000 hit points. He takes 2 torpedoes, potentially 3. And he's suddenly down to 6,000 hit points. But in that attack, Stefan has opened himself up to a lot of fire, and he is losing hit points very, very quickly. I finally get a line of sight, getting a couple of shots in on the Bismarck. Bismarck down to 36,000 hit points. And unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Stefan in the Kutuzov, who died. Now I'm in A. I'm not exactly expecting to cap this, but what I can do is try to sink the New Mexico. He's a priority target, he's on low health, he's an easy kill. The Bismarck may be a massive threat to my ship, but if I can kill this guy, then that should almost immediately win the game for us. So more salvos going in, I put the New Mexico on fire. I try to continue firing at him, and do as much damage as fast as possible, and there we go. Kill number 6. I try to get a torpedo solution on the Bismarck. I take a lot of fire in return. And this engagement is not going to work out. I try to turn, but I lose my ship right about here. And this is where I'm going to cut the video, because the replay system is going to cut it up anyway. So, for my troubles, I got 395,000 credits, almost 5,000 XP, and a bunch of free XP as well. 89,000 damage done, 3 torpedo hits, 6 ships destroyed, 12 ships set on fire. 3 incidents of flooding, 5 flag defense and 1 flag capture. Team score puts me squarely on top, but also a big shout out to the Kutuzov, Stefan something with the numbers. He really played well, and he was very aggressive and pushing right into those battleships and securing the kill, or at least helping secure the kill on the New Mexico. So really good player there. Note the Cleveland on the enemy team. The Cleveland is the tier 6 cruiser. He was the lowest tier cruiser in this match. But that didn't deter him. He actually scored the most XP on the enemy team, so well played to him. The detailed report shows you that I damaged a lot of different ships, and I didn't quite kill off any specific number of them, or any. I didn't do massive damage to any single one of them, but I spread out my damage pretty gradually. Note the fire damage, 10,000 points of fire damage done. 3 torpedoes hit the target out of 36, so I suppose you could say that my accuracy for the torpedoes is really not that good. And, well, the secondary battery, it's predictable, right? 16 shots fired, 0 hits. Not really anything that I was hoping for there. Credits and XP shows you 259,000 net profit, because I am running quite a few premium items. Of course, the service and repair costs for the ship are significant at 75,000. I did get a mission done, so that's another 35,000 that I got from the game. And that's of course something that you actually should be discounting. So the net profit should be more along the lines of 220,000. Consumables, ammunition, camouflage, all of those things are pretty expensive for this ship, but it worked. I was also running a dragon flag as well as a Zulu hotel flag, and this got me a massive amount of XP for the commander, 17,000, and I'm nicely on my way to get that last captain skill, the 5th one, so that I can get concealment and make this ship even more stealthy than it already is. And that's the Mogami for you. When I started with the Mogami, I didn't think it was that good of a ship. especially stock, the gun traverse is very, very bad. You're looking at a gun traverse of, I believe, 50 seconds if you're using the 155s. And that just, it takes forever to swing those guns around. But once you start upgrading the ship, it actually becomes quite good, as you can see here. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Any constructive criticism is very, very much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon for more World of Warships.